Alrighty, thank you all so much for joining us. This is the Claremont College's information session about admissions. So my name is Anna Marie Wood. I am Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Scripps College. I'm also a graduate of Scripps, so I graduated in 2013. I'll have our panelists introduce themselves in a bit, but first I just want to give a few housekeeping reminders about how this will work. This session will last about an hour. The first 30 to 40 minutes will be a presentation. We're going to go over the Claremont Colleges and also talk about admissions, especially in the time of COVID. And then there'll be plenty of time for your questions at the end. If you have any questions, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screen. You'll notice that you're not on video and you're not on audio. So the Q&A box is how you can engage with us throughout this session. So our agenda for today, I'll have my panelists introduce themselves, and then after that, we'll spend a few minutes just providing an overview of the Claremont Colleges. Some of you may be very familiar with us already, and thanks for coming. Some of you, it may be your first introductions. We want to make sure you understand just what makes our consortium special. And then we're going to spend a few minutes for each school doing some individual college overviews. I know a lot of questions that you all submitted throughout the session was about each college and how do I know what each college is looking for. So hopefully the individual college overviews will help give you a sense of just the differences between our schools. And then we'll jump into the rest of the presentation about applying to our schools and admissions in general in the time of COVID. Hopefully this gives you a better sense of how we look at holistic review, how we look at applicants, especially during this time period. And then we'll come back at the end and moderate a Q&A with questions that you submit in the Q&A box throughout the hour. So before I turn it over to my panelists, I just want to say thank you again so much for coming. And thank you panelists for joining me. It's always such an honor for me to collaborate with you all. I love working with you all. For those of you who are on this call, you have some of higher ed's amazing leaders on this call. And so I hope that you ask all the questions that you want. I'm excited to be here with them today, and to talk about admissions and the Claremont Colleges with you all. So without that, I will, panelists, if you could introduce yourselves, and then we'll go into the presentation.
All right, thank you so much. It's great to be with you, everybody. My name is Adam Sapp. I'm the Director of Admission at Pomona College.
Hello, thank you, Anna. I'm Victoria Romero, the Vice President for Enrollment at Scripps College.
Hello, everyone. I am Jennifer Sandoval Dance, Associate Vice President for Admission and Financial Aid at Claremont McKenna College.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tara Briggs, and I'm the Vice President for Admission and Financial Aid at Harvey Mudd College.
Hi, my name is Santiago Ibarra. I am the Director of Admission at Pitzer College.
Thank you all so much. And so Victoria, I will turn it over to you to start us off.
Great, well, thank you. We thought we would start this afternoon by sharing a little bit about what we actually have in common. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes the Claremont Colleges distinct. And when you think about the things that we have in common, these are things that many liberal arts colleges have in common. So we have certainly a liberal arts curriculum. We're all small residential colleges with small student faculty ratios. You can see around 10 to 1. Small classes of 18 people. So you're going to have the opportunity to get to know your faculty members, your professors, the faculty on campus. Teaching is one of the most important things a faculty member does. Certainly they're doing research, but they're at a small liberal arts college because they want to have that connection with students. We all have opportunities for funded undergraduate research. And so that's in a variety of different areas. And for many students, as early as your first year, there might be opportunities to think about how you begin thinking about research. And by the time you're a junior or senior, those funded opportunities might happen during the summertime, but it might also happen during the academic year. All of us have internship opportunities. We're about 35 miles east of Los Angeles. So certainly Los Angeles can offer some opportunities for internships during the academic year or during the summer, but also students can use our career planning and our career centers to think about internship opportunities at the undergraduate level during the academic year or during the summer. We all have study abroad programs. It might vary the percentage of students studying abroad, but for some of us, it's quite high. And there's numerous opportunities for students to study abroad. And it doesn't matter what your discipline might be. There are opportunities to study study in different parts of the world. Usually this happens your junior year. It could be for a semester. It could also be for an entire year. And then there are also programs within the United States that that students have some opportunities to be a part of on the East Coast or the West Coast during the academic year. We all accept the common application. That's one application you can use to apply to a number of different colleges. So you can use that one application, and then you have, we each have separate members screens where you actually answer questions based specific for that college. So we make it easy for you in terms of applying. And we're all meet 100% a demonstrated financial need. If you have a need based on eligibility from the financial aid office, we will meet that 100%. And so we all have very, very strong financial aid programs. Some of us have some merit money, others do not have merit money, but certainly for students who have financial aid, strong programs throughout Claremont. And finally, all of us this year are not requiring standardized testing. For some, Pitzer's been test optional for many years. Scripps will remain test optional following COVID, and for the other colleges, it might be a year program or they'll reevaluate it after this next year. But that means you do not need to submit your SAT or ACT. You're not going to be at a disadvantage in this process by not submitting those scores. So those are the things that we have in common. So, but what makes us distinct? So what makes us distinct is that we are the only consortium in the United States that was planned to work together. So we're in the LA area, as I mentioned, 35 miles east of downtown Los Angeles in the town of Claremont. You can see it's called the Cities of Trees and PhDs. And there are actually 7 schools. There are 2 graduate schools, but today I'm going to talk about the 5 undergraduate colleges. And you can see on this map, it's an area of about 1 square mile. So we are literally across the street from each other. If I walk out of my office at Scripps, I can look to the right, I can see Harvey Mudd. I can look to the left and see Claremont McKenna and Pomona. And if I could see through all the buildings, I could turn around and I would be looking at the Pitzer campus. So it's about the area of a large, maybe public university. The advantage is once you enroll at any of the 5 colleges, you're allowed to take classes at the other campuses. You're allowed to cross-register. So we have 2,500 courses to choose from. There are over 650 professors between the 5 colleges. There's no liberal arts college in the United States that will have as many math courses offered as there are throughout the Claremont colleges. We have about 6,000 students. So many students see this as the best of both worlds. You have all the advantages of a small liberal arts and residential college, but many advantages of a medium-sized university. The advantages don't happen just inside the classroom, but it also happens with your co-curricular and your residential life. So students live on their own campus, but there are over 250 clubs and organizations between the 5 campuses. So whether you're involved in a cappella groups, or you like the outdoors, or debate, or cooking clubs, whatever it might be, my guess is that there's something in Claremont that you enjoy doing. You can also take classes, or no, excuse me, besides taking classes, you can eat at any of the other dining halls. So there are 17 dining halls in Claremont. And so if you're a CMC student and you're taking a class over at Pomona and you want to have lunch with your friends at Pomona, you can do that. Now, students live on their own campus, but again, they can take classes and eat at the other campuses. The other thing that we share a little bit is athletics. It's divided. And so there are 2 athletics teams. There's CMS, Claremont Mudd and Scripps, and Pomona Pitzer. So we're NCAA Division III, and we're divided so we can remain Division III. And so you can imagine that our biggest rival is each other, and you can play soccer. You could have a soccer match against Pomona Pitzer and just basically cross the street and be at your away game. But also intramural sports are quite popular. The climate of Southern California certainly lends itself to that. And all of us have really vibrant intramural opportunities within the Claremonts. So that's a very brief overview of the Claremont colleges. But again, I'll focus on the fact that a lot of students see this as the best of both worlds. You have all the resources you would expect from a small liberal arts and science college, but you have many of the advantages you would find in a medium-sized university. And I will turn it over next to Adam, and
right.
we'll do our.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And now we're going to spend just a couple minutes on each institution, and we're going to go in founding order. And so I'm going to go first because Pomona is the oldest member of the Claremont Colleges. We were founded in the late 1800s as the first of the Claremont Colleges. And when Pomona was founded, obviously we were a standalone institution for a little while until the other Claremonts came along. As Victoria said, there's a system here, a consortium that works in partnership. But Pomona, when it was founded, was a standalone institution. And so when you look at Pomona today, one of the things that you'll see are some of the remnants of that. Our curriculum is very broad, it's very big. There's a whole lot of ways that you can pursue sort of academic and intellectual diversity at Pomona. You are also going to find when you look at the Pomona campus, as Victoria said, we all guarantee housing. Pomona does as well. And so you'll see some divisions. First years and second year students live on South Campus, and third and fourth year students live on North Campus. The campus itself is full of trees and people with PhDs. We are a place that is engaging and believes in having a rich and academic intellectual culture. About half of Pomona students will study abroad, 52% at last count, and students are from all over. Students attend Pomona from all 50 states and 60 different countries. We're diverse. 55% of this year's first year students identify as domestic students of color, and 20% of our students are first generation students. And the curriculum is broad too. We believe in intellectual diversity, the natural sciences, the social sciences, as well as the arts and humanities and interdisciplinary studies. All of those things become so important to the culture at Pomona. We also fund internships and summer research, as Victoria mentioned about with all the Claremont colleges. And then I would just sort of say that, you know, on the final count, that at Pomona we have a no loan financial aid policy. Over half of our students are on financial aid, and we do not package loans in our financial aid policy, in our financial aid packages, in addition to meeting 100% of demonstrated need. So I'm at time, and I'll now pass it over to Jen at Claremont, to Victoria at Scripps College.
Thanks, Adam. Scripps was founded in the 1920s after women were given the right to vote. So I'm just going to talk about two areas of Scripps that I'd like you to think about. I find it really inspiring to be part of a community that's led entirely by women. And I want to talk today a little bit about our core program in the interdisciplinary humanities, which is the foundation of our education. If you think about the humanities, they're really stories of ideas that help us make sense of our world. And so CORE is an interdisciplinary approach to a broad range of historical and contemporary issues. So a way to think about that is they're trying to take an issue and look through it from multiple lenses. And so it's investigating a topic through more than one discipline. And so students that at Scripps have this love of learning, and while they might be really passionate about biology or really passionate about psychology, they're not willing to give up the in-depth learning that they will have in art or in English. And so the core program in interdisciplinary humanities really allows students to learn how to think and learn and write and be critical thinkers in an interdisciplinary way. It's 3 classes that students take, the one of each first semesters of your one class each of your first 3 semesters, and it is really the foundation of our education. When I think about that and I connect that to the mission of the college, there are 4 words in our mission statement that are really important at Scripps: integrity, creativity, service, and leadership. And I think of Scripps students as change makers, and they understand that change can happen in a variety of different ways. And so change can happen through integrity because you're going to stand up for what you believe in. Change can happen through creativity because the arts, painting, dance are really impactful ways of thinking about change. Change can can happen in service. Students being, graduates being involved and students being involved in organizations, not just at the national or the state level, but also thinking in the importance of being involved in your community and in your neighborhoods and enacting change. And certainly change happens through leadership. And there is a broad definition of what leadership might be at Scripps, and understanding that different types of leaders can impact and change in different ways. And so our students learn that you don't have to talk the loudest or the longest to be heard, but there are many opportunities of thinking about creating opportunities for empowerment and confidence. And through that, with their level of learning, I think that the mission of a women's college is certainly something that's really important in higher education today. So with that, I will turn it over to Jennifer at CMC.
Thank you, Victoria. So Claremont McKenna College, we're a comprehensive liberal arts college enrolling about 1,330 total students. Our mission is to prepare young people for thoughtful and productive lives and to prepare them for responsible leadership in the areas of business, government, and the professions. CMC has a strong thematic focus on celebrating and rich discourse in the areas of public policy and public affairs. In fact, we have a public affairs major at CMC as well. We have historic strengths in government and economics, but as I mentioned at the beginning, we are a comprehensive liberal arts college, so we have a pretty healthy spread across the humanities, social sciences, and physical and life sciences. The goal is to make sure that students are learning in a rich intellectual sense, to have a strong intellectual spine. Our general education curriculum will walk them through all the critical academic pathways across those subject areas, and to make sure students are intentionally thinking about what that role of leadership is across industries, across subject areas, and really analyzing that in a curricular, co-curricular way, as well as an extracurricular and experiential manner. So our curriculum and our pedagogy is designed to have a strong interconnection between theory and practice. So we like to say, learn for the sake of learning, while learning for the sake of doing and learning for the sake of leading. We're known for having a diversity in viewpoint diversity. So about a third of our students identify as politically conservative, about a third as moderate, about a third as liberal. So CMC believes in fostering civil discourse, free exchange of ideas. It's not always clean, and it sometimes we stumble and fumble at it, but because it's a core of our mission, we always get back up and make sure that we're working and marching towards meeting that objective and that goal. So we have a great speaker series called the Athenaeum, where we bring a speaker to campus every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday of the academic year to come and talk with our students. And this is to really bring the leaders of today to interact with the leaders of tomorrow and bring a wide range of perspectives, people across different academic areas, professional sectors, and life experiences to come and talk with our students. So that's a running start of Claremont McKenna, and I will now turn it over to Tara from Harvey Mudd.
Thank you, Jen. So with Harvey Mudd, we actually are the smallest of the Claremont colleges at about 900 undergraduates, and we are known as the undergraduate college of the liberal arts college of math, science, and engineering. So that might sound like a kind of odd combination, but in fact, we are a liberal arts college, even though we only offer majors in math, science, and engineering. That said, our curriculum has 3 different parts to it. So the first part is a rigorous core curriculum that lasts 3 semesters, where students study in every single department we offer before they declare their major at the end of their sophomore year. So in fact, students coming in don't have to know what they want to major in. They just have to know or be pretty certain that it's going to be something in math, science, or engineering. The second third of our curriculum is the humanities, science, and arts. And that is a crucial part of who we are, that we are looking for students who want to do both STEM work and work in the humanities, social sciences, and the arts. In addition to that, we also, the third part is your major. So as I mentioned, 10 different majors, all in math, science, and engineering. We also offer an incredible assortment of research opportunities. And I think often students are concerned about how can a small liberal arts college offer amazing resources for undergraduate students. This is absolutely matters where we're undergraduate, because you're never taught by a graduate student. All of our faculty members are still doing research in their fields. And instead of turning to their graduate students as they might do at a larger institution, at Harvey Mudd, they turn to their undergraduates. So all students will do a senior capstone research project, either a senior thesis or something called our clinic project, where students will work with companies like Google, Microsoft, Disney, SpaceX. These companies pay Harvey Mudd each year to have our students work alongside them, working on solving real life problems for them. And 10 to 12 patents come out of these projects every year. Our students' names are on the patents. We also have, our alums have the highest average mid-career salary of graduates of any college or university in the country. And also we have the #1 ranking for return on investment. So if you're a student who's very excited about the STEM fields, but you don't want to give up what you want to do in the humanities, social sciences, and the arts, and you want to work in a highly collaborative environment, I certainly hope that you will consider Harvey Mudd. And with that, I will turn it over to Santiago.
So Pitzer was founded in 1963. We're the youngest of the undergraduate schools, and I kind of think we act like it. We have these 4 amazing older siblings who went their own route, and so we needed to find out how to be different and what to treat the liberal arts in a different way. And we really were inspired by the 1960s, the activist generation there. We started off with a set of core values, and the first core value for us is actually student engagement. We said students have to sit on every governing body of the college. So you get to be a real decision maker here and shift us. Our motto is Provida Futuri, which means mindful of the future. So you're not going to hear a lot about traditions at Pitzer because we're always trying to innovate and do something new. Self-design majors is a very popular option. But I do want to spend a little bit more time on the student governance because it has allowed us to move mountains. We're the first school in Southern California to have divested from fossil fuels when it comes to the college endowment. Sustainability is another one of those core values. So students really said to us, you need to live up to these words. You need to live up to these values. Intercultural understanding is another core value. We really expect our students to engage with populations that are different from what you'll find at a college town or in Claremont. Hopefully that does mean study abroad. Over half of our students have those opportunities, and we actually run 8 of our own programs, including some summer programs. So maybe you're an athlete and you don't want to miss out on a season, you can do one of our summer programs. Social responsibility is definitely bread and butter to us. We actually have a graduation requirement for students to take a social justice theory course and then do a praxis, take some action, really try to change an issue around you. We really feel that an education and knowledge really has to be used in society in order to create change. We're in an election year. I think Pitzer students right now are definitely very, very active. We're sort of known to be the most activist of the colleges. My colleagues here like to poke fun that if there's a protest, Pitzer started it. Not always the case, but that's just sort of our personality. All right, so let's talk about COVID and the admission process. Hopefully we can get to this next slide. Things to note, I think we've already mentioned, all of us have gone test optional for the year. And we really do mean this. Do not feel like you need to take the exam. A lot of your high schools have also changed. Some of you probably went past fail, some froze grades at whatever it was when your schools went remote. Just trust that we know that your educators are doing the best that they can and that they actually know what they're doing and how to best treat your individual education. We're going to roll with that. We're going to follow suit from them in terms of how we review a transcript. We'll have conversations with your counselors if we need to, but by and large, we trust that your educators are making the right decisions for you and that we will reflect our admission processes based on that. We know your teachers have definitely been challenged. We know across the board, some of you probably are in class all day. Some of you might be in class for like half an hour and then be expected to do the rest on your own or find tutors. We recognize that this is not a normal year and that grade patterns might shift and it might take you a little bit longer to adjust. And maybe it took you a little bit longer to adjust in the spring and that your education could have changed from the first week of the fall semester to where you are now as schools adapt. And we're just gonna follow suit with that and be very open to what that all means. Can we go to the next slide, please? So as I said, we have all gone test optional. To be honest, I think we're we're so familiar with your transcripts and we have so much historic data about different high schools and your high school profiles that the transcript is really going to be what we focus on. I think a few of us probably won't even consider testing, even if you submit it, just because we know it's not something that's common and it's geographically very different, right? We're in Los Angeles County, we're not offering SATs here, but some other states are. And so we really want to be fair to everybody and just realize that the exam is not the most important part for any of us, and that we're very familiar with high school transcripts and curriculums that you might be sending. If you do have testing and you do submit it, we think that's fine, but again, it's not going to get you an advantage. I saw that question posted earlier. It's not going to be an advantage over somebody who was not allowed to take SATs or SAT2s for those schools, those of us who used to take them. And I think I'm passing it off now to Jen.
Thank you. Okay, so activities and leadership. You know, when you get to high school as a first year, as a sophomore, you look up to the juniors and seniors who hold leadership positions, such as associated student body officer positions, maybe they're editor-in-chief of the yearbook and the newspaper, and all these great things that you're looking forward to evolving and developing as a student and getting there. And here we have significant disruptions that you certainly experienced last spring and continue to experience as we get through this fall. And we want to impress upon you that we understand this. We're living it, and while we understand it's nuanced and it can be quite distinct and different, and we'll look to you to explain where there's been disproportionate impact in your area, we completely understand that things were disrupted and they may have been eliminated, no ability to be able to do it, participate in it anymore, like a sport perhaps. It could have persisted, like maybe you were holding a position in a community service club and you've continued to meet with that group and find ways to do service, but it's not quite the same. The way that you anticipated holding that role is not going to look or feel the same in a virtual environment or without the ability to connect with people in an in-person format. So we want you to know, we completely get it, we understand it, and that we're going to be very sensitive to that as we look at your application. We also understand, and you can put in there, this is it, you can indicate on there you're continuing to do it, and you can always reflect on aspects of what has changed about that and what you've learned about that, and things that you just have not been able to continue with, at least not right now. We also understand that summers are a great time, not only to rest, hopefully, and rejuvenate and do some family vacations, but also to be able to maybe take a course here or participate in a summer program or go to that camp that you and your siblings or family have gone to every year. So those research opportunities that maybe you were looking forward to doing at the local university, those are not open. And we understand that. So we're not going to be expecting to see that. We understand those are limitations for you. And we will be incredibly sensitive. So while you're sitting there filling out your extracurricular, co-curricular, working on your resume, please do not look and say, this I'm not going to be able to put anymore. We will understand that that is where you're at. But we also know that we've all learned a lot about ourselves, about those that we live with, about the world around us, and we've in a unique way. And as challenging as it certainly has been, there have been some takeaways for each of us, and they're going to be distinct. And so we are curious to learn, are there things that you've taken up? Maybe it was a movie you watched that inspired you to try to learn another language or to learn more about a particular subject area. So we will be curious to understand anything, as you take a step back, and you all definitely have change, you've developed, you see the world in a different way, your interests may be even nuanced and different and be taking a different path. So we'll be curious to understand that. And I will turn it over to Adam.
Yes, and after activities and leadership, we're now going to turn to teachers and to guidance counselors. And so I just want to say a few words about your teacher recommendations. These teacher recommendations are really important. We know that, as has already been stated, that during this time of COVID, it may be a little more difficult to get in communication with your teachers, or it might also be difficult for them to be as responsive to you, to be perhaps to write as many recommendations as they have they've written in the past. They may be feeling their own strain and their own pressure pressure in their lives, and we want to make sure that you, please honor that and respect that. Give them lots of time as you think about when you make your requests and what requests that you make of them. We know that we'll need to be a little bit flexible this year, and so you'll see as you think about our policies around who can write a recommendation and when that teacher taught you, that various schools, both the Claremonts, but also other colleges and universities across the country, have become a little bit more flexible about that. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to that institution and ask them. Generally we're looking for two teacher recommendations who have taught you in the 5 core subject areas. So that's math, science, foreign language, social studies, and English. Those tend to be who we receive the majority of recommendations from. If you have someone outside of that, or you have someone maybe who taught you in 10th grade, or you have someone who you think would make a great recommender, usually you just need to send an email and ask, but generally we can accept those as well, but they just need to be, they do need to be academic in nature when we talk about teacher recommendations. The final thing, and this is really about why teacher recommendations. When we think about an applicant, we're thinking about really drilling down using a microscope. How is this student engaging their peers? How are they engaging their teachers? How are they engaging material in class? So this is usually a little bit more specific. That's why we ask for teacher recommendations. We're academic institutions. We want to know how you engage in an academic setting. And in the next slide, you'll see we also want a recommendation from your counselors. And so guidance counselors also play a crucial role here. If teachers are the microscope that helps us drill down, guidance counselors are the telescope that helps us see big. They help us understand you in the context of your school, the perspective of a little bit of a bigger perspective in your school. And so they can help contextualize your curriculum. Maybe your curriculum changed this year because if you moved online or you were online in the spring, maybe the classes that were offered were not the same. Well, your guidance counselor will be able to tell us that. Or perhaps there's some changes to grading. Maybe you had a pass fail or credit no credit, or maybe you did things differently with AP preparation. Your counselor will be able to give us that sort of big picture perspective about you and your school and your community. And then of course, there are also other ways to access counselors. So if you're part of a community college access program or a college-based organization or community-based organization, there may be counselors who will be able to provide more information if you work with sort of what we would call wraparound services or services that sort of support college access that are not directly related to schools. These can also be important perspectives to have as you think about guidance. But the real final piece here, and this really gets to your guidance counselor, if it's possible to meet with your guidance counselor as they're doing the work, that's fine. Not all guidance counselors are going to be able to do that, and that's okay. We're not looking for a long guidance counselor recommendation. So many guidance counselors will write, maybe sometimes they'll write a couple paragraphs, others will write a page, others will give some comments. There is not a standard length for a guidance counselor recommendation. What we're really looking for is that guidance counselor gives us the context, and we know that we will receive that along with your transcript, which your guidance counselor will submit. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tira and we'll talk about our next topic.
Great. Thank you, Adam. So really, I'm here to sort of wrap things up, and I'm realizing that the notes that I took for what I was going to say really is going to reiterate a lot of what my colleagues have said, and I hope that that's actually reassuring to you, because for us, we want you to know that we understand that this year is different, and we want you to know that it's different for us as well. And we have always said that all of the colleges that represented here use a holistic admission process, meaning that we take everything into consideration that you send us, we read everything that you send us, and that we try to put you in context of understanding your challenges, your resources, all of those different pieces. And that is absolutely going to be the truth for how we read this year, and perhaps even more important, I think, than in other years. We are well aware that there are several populations within this country who have experienced COVID in a very different way, perhaps with a far greater impact than others. And so we are training our staff very much to be aware of who those populations are, to understand what some of the limitations are, what some of the challenges are that you've had to face that other students applying to colleges have not. And so in particular, we know that that this pandemic has really highlighted a lot of the inequities in our society. And so we are training our staff very thoughtfully on how to read applications, understanding what your challenges are. We've gotten lots of questions, for example, about should I answer that COVID-19 essay that is part of the common application or the checklist that is part of the coalition application. And our answer to that is if you feel like you have something to say on that topic, please share it with us. We've learned over the years that very often it's the exact populations that should be telling us about things like that or challenging situations that may not share with us. So we encourage you to use that if you feel like you have something to say, but please know that if you don't feel like you have something to say, we will not judge you for that either. You see a phrase here on the screen, benefit of the doubt. The way I've phrased it for the past several months now is that we know that we are going to be extending an incredible amount of grace to the students applying to college this year. If you are a junior right now, I am guessing, given where we are in the world, that this grace will also extend to your class in terms of being extremely flexible with things like requirements, as Adam mentioned. That said, it is important to know that each college is handling things a little bit differently. So I wish I could say there was a central place where you could look to get your answers to how colleges have changed their processes, but it's not really true. You're going to have to check in with individual colleges and also understand that things may change within the next few months. So just keep an eye on the website, read emails that colleges send you because there may be important things in there. So Anna, if you want to go to the next slide for me. Thank you. So what does this all mean? I think, some of the things you see on here are assumptions. And I guess what I want to caution everybody about, and I'm talking to us at the college folks too, is students, I encourage you not to make guesses or assumptions about how all of this might impact us. And we will do our best not to make any assumptions about how you have handled it or how this has impacted you. A lot of questions we're getting about, I've heard that everybody has deferred from last year. Are there going to be fewer spaces for me? In being on tons of panels in recent months, I've learned that that is a wildly different experience from college to college. So it's worth asking colleges about how deferrals have impacted college, their application process. That said, you see two different sort of contradictory questions there or thoughts there. One, I think most of us have no idea how many applications we're going to have. It may very well be that we're going to see fewer applications because students have not had the chance to get to know us in the same way. But on the flip side, there's also rumors out there that students may be trying to cover themselves and apply to more colleges. So my takeaway here is only worry about controlling the parts you can control and don't worry about controlling the parts that you can't. Focus on what you have control over and build up that knowledge so you're going to be able to take advantage of that. So there are things that I want to stress also, that some good things are coming out of this, that we have had to step up our virtual engagement game. And that will continue, I think, after this is over, or after we've moved into whatever the new normal is. So take advantage of that as well. And please know that all of us are here, and at every college are here to answer any questions and concerns that you might have. Right now, all of the Claremont colleges are completely virtual for first semester. We do not know what's going to happen for second semester. Many of us are hoping that we're going to be able to bring some students onto campus, but at this point we don't know. And to be honest, even if we are going to be able to bring students on campus, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to bring visitors onto our campus as we try to control the density of our student living situation. But please know that we are going to do everything we can to connect with you to answer your questions, but also as this process unfolds, take advantage of connecting with us in virtual ways. And with that, I will turn it over to Anna.
All right, thank you all so much. Thank you, presenters, for going through all of that. Students, I hope that was helpful to get just a better sense of, again, our individual schools, the consortium as a whole, and just how we're looking at the admissions process this year. And apologies for the PowerPoint mix-up earlier. I've only done PowerPoint like 100 times in the last month, so maybe it just finally broke and was like, we're done, Anna, no more PowerPoint. So thank you all for just bearing with us through that. So presenters, I would like to pose to you a question that we've been getting a lot in the Q&A, and we also got a lot of different iterations of in the registration form, is about standing out as an applicant. How can I stand out as an applicant, especially this year when maybe I couldn't connect with you all in that way? So I don't know if each of you will want to answer that individually, or if that's, we all might have the same kind of answer with that. But that's my first question I want to pose is how can I stand out as an applicant in your process?
Yeah, and I saw that question earlier. And as soon as I read it, I thought, I actually don't want you to stand out in the process. I want to just know who you are, because we're trying to match you with an education that is best suited towards you. So that doesn't mean you have to stand out. It just means you have to be authentic about yourself. And that way we'll know whether you can thrive on our campus and whether we're really that right match and whether you're going to be able to contribute in amazing ways. They don't have to be unique ways, just they're still amazing.
The only thing I would add to that is very often the way you serve yourself best, and this sounds, I don't know, it sounds easy, is by simply giving us the requirements we ask for. Because what we've asked for, each piece of that we have selected because we know it's important to us. So really worry about that. Don't try to figure out what you can add on top of things. That's not actually what makes students stand out. It's your thoughtful presentation.
Yeah, I would echo that. There was a question there about a QuestBridge applicant who wanted to know if he or she could submit extra materials. You don't need to submit extra materials in the application itself. There is space for that in the additional information section. You can upload that something, or you can put something in the additional information section. Some of us have supplements for the arts. Some of us have supplements for science. Some of us have optional interviews. There are things that all of us have in our optional section that you certainly can do, but we're not requiring those. So just know there is really a difference between if you have to submit it versus if you want to submit it. We're giving you choices.
Great, thank you all. And the next question we have is one that Tira, you actually addressed. So if we feel like we've answered this question, we can move on. The question is, will deferrals from 2020 graduates impact admissions for the class of 2021?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just reiterate that it really does depend college to college. Some schools saw no change whatsoever in the number of deferrals. Some schools did see an increase, but there are some schools that we're going to be seeking to take a larger class size this year to accommodate the unknown, or to accommodate perhaps smaller enrollments this year. So again, this is another case of where it's not anything you can control. You can ask colleges individually their answer, but it's not anything that you can control. So you should focus much more on giving yourself the best self-presentation that you can.
Great, thank you. And then this is an interesting question. How have all 5 schools collaborated to address the pandemic? And so, I don't know if we want to answer that just with what our college leaderships have collectively kind of worked on for the schools, or in terms of admissions. But so the question is, how have all 5 schools collaborated to address what's been going on?
Well, I'll start. I think there's a lot of collaboration in every area, from our presidents to our dean of faculty, our dean of students. The admission offices are obviously collaborating, doing programs like this. When you're a consortium like this, you have to have conversations with each other. And during the last 8 months, it's never been more important. We don't always agree on what the next step might be, and that's okay. But I think that for all of us during COVID, it's making sure that our students are getting an education and our staff and faculty are safe, that we're having opportunities for prospective students to learn about our colleges and the Claremont Colleges, and also planning for the future. There's a lot of conversations as we move forward on the best way to move forward, and the best way, how that can happen as a consortium, and what parts can be shared, and what parts are going to stay with individual schools. So I think that, for each of us and for our colleagues, a lot of time is spent right now in interacting with other colleges so that we can move forward doing the best thing for our students. Ways that we've, I think that the Dean of Students Office have worked with other schools in sharing information on how to have students stay connected during a virtual experience. How do you engage new students who are having their college experience virtually? So traditions are remaining. At Scripps, we have tea. There's still tea. Other campuses have other, traditions, and they're not going to, those aren't going away. They're just being done in a different way. And so were there some missteps? Yes. But I think that certainly we want to make sure that we're trying to create a wonderful opportunity for students. Our faculty didn't know how to teach virtually. And so overnight, they had to really kind of switch what they were doing. And over the summer, with a lot of help from, each other, really thought about how to approach this fall and having a more productive, interactive virtual experience for students. So the amount of time that's been spent the last 8 months working together and on our own individual campuses has been quite remarkable.
Great, thank you so much, Victoria. And kind of a follow-up to that and thinking about the colleges and collaborating, of course, one area where we really collaborate is athletics. And so we have a question here about just any changes or disruption in terms of athletics for prospective students considering to maybe at the varsity level, playing for athletics and how that process works due to everything that's going on.
So it's the question's about prospective students, not necessarily enrolled students. For enrolled students, I guess I'll start there. Yes, there's been, there's restrictions by the conference, by the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SCIAC, had to make decisions, and we continue to do that and assess the keeping everybody's welfare at stake. And so certainly athletes' paths, their seasons either didn't happen if it's in the fall, what it would look like in the spring, even thinking about next fall. I mean, what I will say is that the coaches have maintained great contact with both recruited students that they are recruiting and their current team. So there's been, they're doing, I don't know if it's for so much virtual workouts, but they're making sure that they're meeting with one another and staying in shape and staying in that routine and getting ready for when we can pick back up with that. In terms of a recruited athlete, for each, just like the question about deferment, for each team, it's going to be, the response may be a bit different depending on the composition of their team, and maybe some current students took a leave. So I would say that this is where really, if you're working with a coach or you plan on working with a coach, it's okay to ask a really, candid question. Where are you at with recruiting? We know there are some unknowns. What are you thinking your needs are going to be? So that way you can get that full disclosure piece of, where it's at, and have those open conversations, which have always been happening, certainly, but getting a good pulse on that. Athletics has definitely been something that is all things it just sort of have been disrupted, but, athletics, with the fact that there is so much in-person contact and engagement on that level, it's something that has certainly seen disruption.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And we have a question here about submitting test scores. And I know, Santiago, you talked about test optional on one of the slides. The question is there a rule of thumb for when we should submit test scores?
So, at least at Pitzer, we're really trying to, our office at least is trying to go test blind so that we don't even have to have the students make a decision whether they should or shouldn't, because it plays a pretty small role in our process. But I think somebody did ask about, like, I'm in the middle 50% range. I think for most schools, if you're in that middle 50% range, testing is going to be fine. If you're below that, I think some colleges might really care about their SAT averages and what they report. So if you have the test optional opportunity, I think I would advise somebody not to submit testing if they fall under that range. But just remember, once you do that, that range is just going to go higher for each individual school. So, testing altogether is just kind of weird in that they might go a lot higher this next year for students who don't submit those slightly lower scores.
Yeah, I would also just comment there that there are, just nationally, there's 3 ways in which colleges and universities have approached this. There's test optional, which is more of a choice policy. There's test blind, which is if you submit them, doesn't matter, we're still not going to look at them, or don't submit them at all. And then there's test flexible, where there's different majors or different programs where they're actually suggesting that you test, but for others they're not. There is not a uniform policy within the Claremont colleges around this, and so we are test optional. All of us are test optional, but that is interpreted a little bit differently from school to school. So it's sort of hard to make a blanket statement about the Claremont colleges when it comes to testing. I don't know, Jen, do you want to step in here? Because I know you guys have a slightly different twist on that with respect to the testing this year too.
Sure. So, in many ways, we're operating somewhat test blind environment in that we are, because we know students who took the test didn't take, either they didn't take them under optimum circumstances, or they took them very early, not at the sweet spot time that they would normally take them. We're not factoring them into our academic evaluation. So it'll just be the high school transcript. That'll be your curriculum, your grades. That'll be the only thing that is evaluated in the academic assessment. So if you report it, it'll be seen as the way that we've used AP scores or subject tests. We see it, but it's not something that's going to inform the decision or the academic credentials.
Thank you all so much. And then to switch gears a little bit, we've had a few questions about financial aid and scholarships. Would one of you mind elaborating on what does it mean to be need aware? And maybe also at the same time, what does it mean to be need blind for those of you who are need blind?
Well, I can talk about being need aware. I mean, and Scripps is need aware. And so that means at some point in the process for us, it's very late in the process. A student's ability to pay might factor into our decision. And the reason for that is that we have a very generous financial aid budget, and we want to make sure that we can meet the full need of every student. And so at some point, because of that, we have to take into account a family's ability to pay. An admission officer does not read taking into account a family's ability to pay at Scripps. And so that's actually done at a committee level towards the very end. And so if you're need blind, what that means is when you make an admission decision, you're not thinking about whether or not a family can pay. Anybody, any school can be need blind. That just does, the difference is if you're need blind and you meet full need, and there's only about 30 or 35 colleges in the country who are actually need blind and meet full need. And so for us, the fact that all of us will meet the full demonstrated need of a student talks about the strength in our financial aid packages. Because a college can be need blind and then what they call gap, mean not meet your full demonstrated financial need in your financial aid package. So a lot of schools will say they're need blind, and all the schools that are need blind here meet the full need. But the next question you need to ask the school is, do you meet full need? That's kind of the difference between need aware and need blind.
Thank you, Victoria. The next question is fun. It's the question is, oh wait, I lost it. Where did you go? Oh, how have the colleges tried to make the virtual college experience worthwhile for students? Maybe we could talk about from the prospective student side, our virtual engagement opportunities, but also what's going on with current students and faculty and how has that experience been?
I think for all of us here, and you've probably heard a lot of us, maybe all of us talk about it today, one of the key things is of a small liberal arts college is this idea of collaboration. And so I think all of us, all of the colleges, the faculty and the students and the staff have worked very intentionally to how do you create collaborative environments. One of the things I think we've all seen is that some of our students have actually chosen to live all over the country and the world in little pods with other students because they want to still have that collaborative environment. Others who don't have that opportunity or are not able to do that, we've worked intentionally to make collaborative environments. So that's even from continuing the trivia nights that we have, that continue to happen. We have we have a virtual talent show. So a lot of the things that normally happen, we've just sort of moved to the virtual space, but some things have actually been sort of created out of that in order to make it happen. I think I gave an example of one of our last programs. Harvey Mudd students, one of their favorite things is painting with one of our deans, sort of like a painting class. And so our staff actually sent out 100 different paint sets to students so they could have that shared experience. And so I think we're seeing it sort of outside of class. And then within class, I think the faculty have just done a phenomenal job of creating smaller pods of collaboration in order to sort of foster that feeling. I don't know if others have specific examples.
Yeah, I would say the other piece of this is, of course, that there is a rich non-classroom life that still exists at the Claremont Colleges. And so many of the programming, lectureships, things like that have gone on. So Jen talked about the Athenaeum. We have other lectures. Actually, just last week, Ashley Polly in my office and I, we were tuning into Nate Silver for Scripps Presents because Scripps has a great lectureship series and it was all live streamed. So the ways in which you can access the material, because so much of it is online, the collaborative spirit is still there. It looks a little different. It manifests itself a little differently, but the engagement, I mean, there were lots of other people, and I was seeing people with all 5 of the Claremont.edu emails on that Nate Silver talk as we were having conversation. And so I do think there's engagement, but it does look a little different, and that's okay.
Thank you all. We're almost at time. This next question here, I'm not totally sure what they mean by this, so interpret it as you would like, whoever wants to answer, but it's what goals are the 5 C's aiming to achieve in the near future?
Well, I'll start with the simple, to continue to attract and enroll students who align with our mission, who will contribute to and benefit from everything our communities are. And so I would say that, we want to stay relevant. We want to stay contemporary as institutions, and that's going to look and feel a little bit different for each of us. And so I would say that it's, the pandemic has certainly changed the way folks are experiencing all kinds of things, including education. So I think that will be an ongoing conversation about takeaways that we have as we're able to transition back to being, fully in person. But it's, continue to fundraise for all the wonderful things we want to do, and, continue to evaluate our missions. What does it mean today? What does, how are we fully supporting it? And are we fully supporting it? And, a lot of it is staying dialed in to you as prospective students, what you're expecting out of education, what are our current students expecting, what do our alum, how do they feel that we prepared them? So constantly evaluating that cycle, just like any of us have to do to keep improving. But yeah, it's continuing to improve upon where we are and attract great students.
Thank you
This
so
is
much.
maybe more, sorry. This
Oh, no,
is maybe more on the 7C, the 7 college and university part, but there has been talk, I don't know if it's completely official, of a medical school being added to Keck's graduate institution. So no idea what that would mean in terms of, is it a partnership with any of us? But the original charter said that there would be 10 Claremont colleges. So there's always room for more.
Yeah, and this constant dialogue, I mean, I think it's really important to say there is this constant dialogue at all the Claremonts between the balance of research and engaging knowledge and inquiry and teaching and the concentration of excellence in undergraduate education. I think you're going to see that continue. We are all leaders in that space, and I think you're going to continue to see that leadership. I think in the last year or two, particularly, issues of racial justice and inequity and inequality in this country and the world have become center, and we've all thought about this in really deep ways. We always were, I think, but I think it's been there's a renewed energy around it at all of the institutions, and you see that manifest. And I think when you look at the 5 of us in collaboration, you have some of the best undergraduate liberal arts colleges in the country, bar none. And I think we will continue to strive to be even better than we are in the future.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. And thank you, students, and anyone else on the call for joining us this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You will get an email after this with more ways to connect with us and also to watch the recording of this if you would like to. But that is the end of our program. So thank you so much and take care.